welcome back to another video, and in this video we'll be talking about Angular version 17. So some of the updates have sent shockwaves around the Angular community and the tech community in general. And I've been reading about it, and I found some of the updates really interesting, and I really thought that I'd be sharing this. So my journey with Angular has started from the very beginning. So I remember in the early stages of my career, I worked with AngularJS, which happens to be the very first version of Angular. And I've witnessed the evolution of Angular down the road, and I really appreciated some of the stuff they did, within certain iterations of their versions. And I found them pretty cool. So yeah, let's dive into it and let's talk about it. So firstly, let's see what do we have in store. So very first thing we have are Deferrable Views, which brings huge performance and developer experience. And I'll be discussing this in more detail just a bit later. And we have up to 90% faster runtime with built-in control flow loops in public benchmark. And this happens to be, I really love this new feature. I really love this new update. It's so cool. Oh, I'll explain how cool it is, because let's just go through the list first. Then we have like up to 87% faster builds for hybrid rendering. If you're like building your application in a hybrid mode, you need some sort of server-side rendering aspect as well, then this feature is definitely for you. Otherwise, it has, a decent percentage of 67% for client-side rendering. And we have a fresh new look reflecting the future-looking features of Angular. And yeah, I liked a couple of changes they did in this one as well. So the very first thing they have done is they have this new future looking documentation, which really is really cool. Let me just show you guys. So this is their new impression. It's still in beta, and they're doing a lot of cool stuff here. I really like the experience of how they're laid off these tutorials, and you can just follow them along with the interactive learning experience as well. So this happens to be pretty cool. Another feature which I really like, because I was exploring signals a few days back, and when I came down to their recent playground, which happens to be this particular experience, I really liked it. So you can just quickly select a few stuff from here, and you can quickly interact with the code, and you can learn about these new updates real quick. So I really like this new outlook. Really cool. Secondly, the most important thing, the built-in control flow. So what's new in this? So Angular has released like this new block template, and I really relate to it, because previously you would see features like ngIf, ngSwitch, and ngFor. And I do remember it that every single time, although working with Angular for over a decade, I would still forget the syntax. And I would, just keep on switching between tabs, going to Stack Overflow, or going to the Angular's documentation to sort of, explore the syntax yet one more time. So that happened a lot. But I'm really glad that they made like a huge change around this. And also with ngFor, as they've mentioned within this article. By the way, a huge shout out to Minko for writing such a comprehensive article. If you haven't subscribed to his articles yet on Medium, please do. He writes, the coolest stuff out there. So back to control flow. So we were talking about ngFor, and ngFor always came with, track by feature, which would sort of mimic the diffing algorithm, something that React uses to sort of figure out the differences between the actual DOM and the virtual DOM. So it was something like this, that whenever something actually changes, only that particular block should be updated. So they always had this feature, but I don't know, the users, including me, were always a bit shy of using it, or maybe we were just lazy. But the end of the story is that nobody really actually cared about this feature until now. So they have a few advantages over here. But moment of truth. This is what actually your template would look like whenever you would use ngIf. So you would have a particular Boolean statement over here, and you would have a block statement over here, which would be wrapped around ng template block, and you would use hash anonymous user just to indicate that, hey, if this happens, print this, and if this happens, I'm using this block, and everything within this block should be, printed or shown on the screen. But this was a bit, I won't say it was a lot of trouble, but still, remembering that these are the steps and these are steps you have to follow every single time, it would get confusing a bit of times. But I really like the new outlook. I really like how they have really, made the whole syntax really closer to JavaScript itself. And also it's pretty intuitive. Like you can use this instead of all of this. So pretty cool stuff, huh? Let's move on next. Oh yeah, as far as switch statements are concerned, I do remember that I had to really browse it every single time because I would forget every single time that how you can write a default switch case. So again, you had to remember a lot of stuff specific to Angular whenever you will be working around, this sort of a syntax. But this here looks really cleaner and leaner. Cleaner and leaner. Yeah, that just rhymed. Okay, so this looks amazing, right? But the most important feature, or the most, I would say, the used feature would be the ng for statement, which has been replaced by this beautiful for loop kind of a thing. So this is really like in your face. You can really get this syntax with the first glimpse of it. So this is kind of cool. And it also comes with the default empty block. So remember, every single time if we want to display something when our list is empty, and we would handle this case either outside the loop or within the loop. So this again is really easier because it just follows the loop itself. So pretty cool stuff. And I'm really impressed. I believe these new built-in control flow statements are really going to make a huge impact in terms of the developer community for Angular. Okay, Deferrable Views. One of my favorite updates within Angular version 17. So every single time we would need to defer a particular component, or, work around a component while it's loading, it would always be a bit tricky. But with Deferrable Views, now you can do all of this, which includes lazy loading and prefetch particular component when it's within the viewport, or when it's not in the viewport, is like a huge deal for Angular. I believe this feature is really important. So it's just like if you want something to be loaded when it's in the viewport, just like many mobile applications do these days, or something like YouTube Shorts or TikTok, because they sort of fetch the upcoming next 5 or 10 videos in advance. They prefetch it before, and they sort of and that's how you get that seamless experience of scrolling and enjoying the content as you go. So I believe this was a much needed feature, and but yeah, it's finally here. What can you say? So perfect stuff. So the most beautiful part about this update is the ease of use, and the kind of easiness comes with it. You can just defer a particular component with just 3 lines of code here. This is amazing. So, and also beforehand, whenever you would need to prefetch something that's not in the viewport, or when it's in the viewport, you would have to, work around your way with the intersection observer. And it would be a bit tricky, and it's sort of a bit tricky to code as well. Like it's more, you can run into a lot of edge cases that you'll have to handle yourself within your application. So with this particular update, things become really easy because now you can defer a particular component and you can state an event. Like when it's in the viewport, only then load a particular component. And you can also, show a placeholder instead of the component while it's loading. So this is also a great addition. Um, I still remember that I had to do it myself whenever I was building components back in the day. So yeah, alongside that, we have, a lot of different additions. Like you can defer your component while it's in the viewport. You can show something while it's loading. You have an error state, and you also have a placeholder state. So this here is really clean, and it's pretty, uh, pretty well arranged as well. So this really improves the readability and the experience for developers as well. You can use more events over here instead of on viewport. So here we have a few events, which starts with on idle, on immediate. If you like immediately want to give precedence to a component so that it can load quickly, so you can do that. You can time your defers, and you can use different references within the viewport as well. You can do that, while certain interactions on hover, and yeah, so this looks pretty great. And this is exactly something that I was talking about earlier, that if you want to defer a particular component when it's in the viewport, or you want to prefetch it when it's, on idle state. So on idle state here is like lazily load the block when the browser is not doing any heavy lifting. So if you have a couple of videos within the list, you can sort of prefetch them if your browser is free. So yeah, pretty powerful features. And I really believe that, Deferrable Views is definitely going to be a game changer for Angular. Really like to discuss. Yeah, so defer loading of the animation module. So previously, whenever you would be building the Angular application, you would have to load the animation module before building it, which would obviously add some bits to the latency and to the bundle as well. But with this new feature where you can defer the loading of this animation module itself. So just as the para says, this feature can shave like 60 kbs from the initial bundle. So this is kind of cool stuff over here. Another important addition is input value transformers. So this was also kind of a pain point for a very long time. So normally whenever you would need to add a Boolean variable to your component, you would do something like this. You would lay out a input statement, which happens to be Boolean. You can assign it a Boolean over here, but whenever you would use it something like this, it would throw you an error to something like string is not assignable to Boolean. So that was a big pain point, but now you can transform your statements just like that by just this little key value here, which happens to be transform, and you can mention like, I need this particular input variable to be transformed into a Boolean attribute. So this is kind of cool. Next, I won't say this is a pain point, but I think it's kind of a feature that would really help in different kind of scenarios. I haven't come across a lot of them, but I do remember that like once in a while when I really needed to change styles of a particular component, I would have to use the host statements a lot, which were not even recommended by the Angular community themselves. So previously you would have to, add in styles, more files stacked up into like one component. And you would have to use some third-party styles and some styles to change the integral part of the component, which are very specific to the component. But now you don't have to, save it in different files. You can just use the styles keyword over here, and you can add your specific styles over here, which are like actually very specific to the component. And next you can just use StyleUrl instead of StyleUrls. So this is kind of a cool feature, a cool update. And yeah, we have a few other details over here which are not relevant in your developer experience, I would say. So yeah, this is it. And I believe these are all very cool features. Really cool stuff, really cool addition. I really wish I had them like 5 or 6 years back, but well, here we are. So great. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.